All right, let's welcome back to Straight Fire, Mr. College Football. I don't think anybody does it better on a college scale than Brad Powers, college football gambling guru, dominant factor on the college scene. How you doing, Brad?
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, are you all fired up about the playoff? Because we've never seen this before. Home games, playoff games that matter, not these exhibition games in El Paso in December. These games matter this weekend. I'm extremely stoked, actually more fired up than the NFL slate this weekend.
Yeah, I think the best thing about the expanded playoff is going down this weekend, and that's being on college campuses, which, a lot of people like myself feel that's what separates the college game from a lot of
Mhm.
other sports in America, the tradition and pageantry, especially when you got places like Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame. I'll tell you how excited I am. I'm actually going to two of them. I'm going to Notre Dame and Ohio State. So
Wow.
I'm a fan. I mean, obviously I bet it's my profession, but I'm a fan first, so I'm excited to be a part of it.
Wow. So you go to Notre Dame Friday night. You got to pack very warm clothes because don't forget the gloves and ski hat. I saw, listen, three of these games, it looks like are going to be played in the 20-degree temps.
Yeah, so I live in Vegas. Let's just say had to spend quite a bit at the Bass Pro Shop to get some. I actually got some hunting gear. That's how bundled I want to be.
Whoa. Are you going with other gamblers or is this solo mission or what do we got?
Yeah, going with I do a podcast with Todd Furman, Payne Insider, so
Oh,
we're all going.
Furman. Yeah, I
So it'll
know
be fun.
Furman. Whoa, whoa. So you guys are going, and who's the other guy?
Payne Insider. We all do a podcast together,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it'll be
Oh,
fun.
I know. Bet the board.
Yep.
Furman. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, that's gonna be fun, man. Braving the elements, leaving Vegas. That's kind of exciting at holiday time. Why don't we start with the Friday night game? Notre Dame hosting Indiana. Interestingly, this looks like it's come down to 7 at most places. Notre Dame was 7.5. I don't know what people are seeing. I'll turn the table over to you. Do the Hoosiers have a chance here?
I statistically they do because they've been dominant. Both
Yeah.
teams have been dominant, not only, basic stats, but obviously against the spread. Notre Dame's 10-2 against the number, and Indiana's 9-3, covering by 2 touchdowns per game. I've upgraded Indiana more than any team in the country this year. But here we are, playoffs, 13 game of the season for both. I'm not sure how good either team is, especially Indiana, because this is a team that's, played two teams in the top 35 in my power ratings. Michigan almost lost that game outright as a 2 touchdown favorite.
Yep.
And then, got exposed. Let's be frank, against Ohio State. I know some people are saying, oh, special teams there. They gave up a punt return. They dropped a punt. The reality is their offense had 150 yards in the game and really did nothing outside of two drives, one at the start, one at the end. So uh, I don't know how good Indiana is. Notre Dame, I trust their run game with Leonard, Price, and obviously Jeremiah Love. I trust their defense. Uh, 7 seems like a fair number. I
Hmm.
prefer the over more than anything. I think Indiana's offense will get it. Some things going together against Notre Dame's pass defense, which really hasn't faced anybody. Remember, they played a couple option teams. USC exposed it a little bit. So over for me. If it got down to 6.5, I'd only be interested in Notre Dame.
Well, at 6.5. Oh my gosh, yes. Let me. One thing that is tough to handicap in this is the home field advantage, and B, the amount of time off. I know a lot of people that I've talked to about this game are like, "Ooh, I don't know about Notre Dame. Did you see what USC did to them?" And I'm like, "Okay, recency bias a little bit, sure." Um, but they've had 3 weeks to prepare just for Indiana here. Like you don't have to worry about anything except Indiana. And I see that, and I'm surprised you're on the over. Why do you think this would be a little higher scoring?
Well, I mean, let's talk Notre Dame side of things. I mean, Indiana's got the number one run defense in the country. So why are you talking over when they got the number one run defense? Because they
Okay.
haven't faced anybody in the top 50 this season in rush offense. Notre Dame's got an elite rushing offense. So I think Notre Dame's going to be able to expose some, perceived strengths on
Mm,
Indiana that I think are overrated. Notre Dame's a little bit banged up. They only have 3 scholarship cornerbacks right now that are healthy. So I just think Signetti, who I think's the superior coach as far as X's and O's, got more experience than Marcus Freeman at this point.
yeah.
I'll have some stuff dialed up. And Al Golden's a great defensive coordinator, but if you watch his games, he usually gives up an early score, then he feels teams out. So I just, it's a relatively low total. I think it's
Yeah.
suppressed because people are expecting weather. And right now the forecast, it's going to be cold, but wind's not a factor. Doesn't look like it's
Cold.
going to snow, so lean over.
Probably.
It's not a high value bet though. Oh, run to the
Yeah.
window, sell the wife, the house, the kids, the car. Just a pizza bet if you want to get involved.
Yeah, yeah. I am curious. You say cold. This night game, it looks like temps will be in the 20s as the high that day, but it looks like it could dip into the teens. Do you think that's a factor for either side here or not really?
Nah, they're accustomed to it. It's Indiana. It would have been a major factor. The week prior, it looked like Alabama was coming to play Notre Dame there in South Bend. Then I would have said, hey, this is the factor in the game.
Yeah. Let me ask you about Freeman, the great coach at Notre Dame. So there has been some chatter, not a ton, some that he could be fielding NFL offers, interviews. We shall. Chicago Bears obviously is a big one locally. I'm just curious. Do you think that factors into this at all? Or is this like you can't you have no idea what to do with it?
So I think that they must have been, getting that sense themselves that there was feelers out there because just announced Monday he signed a 4-year extension. So he's locked up for the next 6 years at about 9.5 million per year. So he got pay raise about 2.5 million. So they questioned silenced some of those questions as
And
far as just announcing that. Another factor that I don't think people realize this in the market. Marcus Freeman with extra time to prep, like the great coaches like Saban and Urban, when you get extra time to prep. I know he's young in his tenure. 9-0 against the spread.
ooh,
Season openers, off bye weeks, bowl games. 9-0 covering by 2 touchdowns a game. So it's not like he's only covering by 2 touchdowns per game.
wow. Now, see, that's a great nugget. I had not seen that anywhere. I just Freeman is a really good coach. I like the Indiana coach who came from JMU. It just feels like they're kind of sort of happy to be here, right? This is like amazing season. And as you said, when they stepped up in class against Ohio State and Michigan, you saw like, ooh, these guys are kind of limited. Notre Dame, that secondary nugget. Well, why do they only have 3 scholarship guys left?
Had a couple injuries, like Benjamin Morrison out, and then they had a kid unfortunately transferred right before that injury, wanted to get playing time, and you know how that works. I mean, playing time. If you had just waited a week, you would have got extra playing time. So they have to, I didn't mean in the entire secondary, just at corner.
Mm.
Obviously, they'll have to rotate some. They got a couple nickels that can play some corner and safeties if need be, but yeah, it's just a little bit depth shy. Notre Dame's been banged up, so Freeman and company's done a great job because I mean they're missing 6 starters that were projected to be starters, and they missed them for most of the season.
Mm.
So the fact that they're in the playoffs after losing to Northern Illinois, it's one of the better coaching jobs in the country.
Since you mentioned the Notre Dame kid transferring, let's segue to Penn State hosting SMU. It looks like it's 8.5. Before you get to the game, I'm very curious as to your thoughts on this backup quarterback transferring out of Penn State. Just everybody really worked into a lather over this. I'm curious, where do you stand on? I know the portal's chaotic, but just specific to this Penn State move.
Well, I mean, from the Penn State side of things, it's not like I'm downgrading their team power rating, but it is a factor. You're not going to run Drew, the starting quarterback, as much.
Mhm.
Perbula, the backup, actually had packages, was playing in every game, a few snaps at least, because he was a better runner. So, it is definitely a negative factor when it comes to their chances of, maybe not this week against SMU or next week when they play Boise, but they still then would have 2 more games that they'd have to win. And I think it does lessen their chances of, taking it home. As far as the kid entering the portal now, I mean, look, I mean, I'm sure certainly he's going to get a payday. Bry doesn't want to get hurt. I don't blame him. I mean, I don't blame the kids at all at this. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the system that they're in, and you want to
Mhm.
blame the kids, change the system.
I agree totally. I don't really have an issue with this guy transferring, but I do understand like hey man, we were gonna have packages for this guy, but he's saying, listen, I'm gonna get an NIL raise from wherever I land, right?
Yep.
And I'm gonna be the starter. What am I sticking around for? Plus, Alaire's coming back, right?
Yeah, he's coming back, so that pretty much cemented it. He's going to probably be the backup again next year, so might as well leave now. And look, I mean, if they make a deep playoff run, that's going to the next semester. Why not just already be with your new team if you're already going to be leaving? So I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I mean, I know some kids are in the portal and still playing, but I understand this kid wants to get his home and get going and, get paid.
Yeah. And
That's what it's
plus,
all
what
about.
would happen? You're way deep into college football. Let's say this kid Bo was practicing and went into the game, and he was in the portal, but he got hurt in the game.
Yeah.
and not a minor injury, an AC, let's just say an ACL or whatever. All of a sudden is Missouri or whoever's offering him, whoa, wait a minute. Hey, sorry, that 750K, we need that. We're not doing that deal anymore, right?
Yeah. And at least 750K. We're talking about a guy that can be a legit starting quarterback at the Power Five level. So at minimum, something like that. So yeah, I mean, unless you've got some great insurance policy, uh, I totally understand him protecting himself.
I'm curious on SMU. They looked like the moment was too big. The ACC title game against Clemson, and then they fought back. I just maybe I'm reading too much into that game, but it's tough for me to lay it with Penn State here, just because SMU they're not going to stop spreading and chucking and ducking, and I don't know that Penn State's defense is going to be able to hold them off the board. You could be up, 14 with 3 minutes left, and thinking, oh, Penn State's got this. We go to the prevent, and then SMU comes down for a garbage time touchdown.
I think you got the handicap almost perfect. The moment was too big for them. It feels like they're playing with the weight of the world to start that Clemson game. But you got to be equally impressed that they came back. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, if that score would have held at the end of three,
Yeah.
they're not in the playoffs. They would have put Alabama in. So kudos for them. This is even a bigger stage though, and instead of a neutral site, it's on the road in 20-degree weather. I know it gets cold in Dallas, but it doesn't get 20 too often there. So I'm anxious to see how they handle this. James Franklin in big games, not good, but this isn't Ohio State or Michigan, and they're favored by more than a touchdown, and he usually wins these types of games. I think it's a one factor handicap for me as far as matchup. Can SMU run the football? They got a good back in Smith. If they can't run, then Abdul Carter is just going to come off the edge, and they're going to, attack what I think is an average SMU offensive line. So if they can get some balance, like USC did, like Ohio State did, like Oregon did, then I think this Penn State's defense is overrated. But if they can't run, then I
Yeah.
I don't give them a shot
Does
to keep it close.
does Penn State have the biggest home field advantage this weekend of any team?
Yep, they do. Because I mean, you read the market tea leaves. There's probably going to be a few Indiana fans in the crowd in South Bend.
Yeah,
Few
yeah,
ten.
yeah.
There's going to be a pretty good contingent of Tennessee fans in the Horseshoe.
Certainly.
But it's not only fans. Weather is going to be. This is the one game where weather could be a factor for the opposing team, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Who do you think is leaving the SMU area or even Texas or Dallas? Who's leaving that to go to Happy Valley? I don't even think there's direct flights. It's like a really difficult job to get to Happy Valley. Yeah, you got like a 4-hour car ride after you land. Will there be any SMU fans here at all, you think?
Barely any, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
So that what makes me wonder, maybe Penn State is a better side, because I was thinking that's the only side I don't love of the four.
As far as Penn State, as far as the favorite, or are you just talking side or total the game
Just
period?
as side and favorite, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's. I'll tell you what, for in the weeds here, it's at 8.5, hasn't moved. That should tell you everything. 8.5 is a dead number in the market because of how often the games fall 8 or 9, and yet it hasn't moved. That tells you right there that's probably a pretty good number.
Hmm.
Everyone would want to lay 7, take 10. It's right in the middle. So I don't expect this one to move. The other ones I could see. I understand some of the Indiana money, the Tennessee money.
Mhm.
Those I think move a little bit here in the 48 hours leading up to kick.
I feel like Clemson, Texas is the least appealing of the games. It just feels like I'm not bullish on Clemson at all. I think they kind of get blown out here. Can you make a case for them covering, what is it, 12 and a half?
I can't. I mean, if you're asking me for a best bet for the first round of the playoffs, it would be Texas. I laid it as the biggest bet I made of the playoffs. So, uh, I here's how I can always paint a scenario. Quinn Ewers, 17 turnover worthy plays this season, one of the most in the country.
Yee.
I keep hearing rumors that he's going to transfer after this season.
What?
So,
Wait, not NFL?
you could get more money possibly at college. Because I mean, is he going to be a first round draft pick? No. So I
Probably
mean,
not, yeah.
add up the money, you could probably make more playing another year of college football somewhere else. So
And they want
uh,
Arch to start next year, obviously.
yeah, they want Arch to start.
So
Why not? I
yours
mean, have
could
you seen Quinn play the
hold.
last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I keep trying to defend him, Brad, but I don't
Well,
know,
he's
man.
not healthy. He's got the ankle issue.
He's always
Uh,
got something.
yeah. The problem, this is the reason it's tough, maybe tough laying the 12, and why this hasn't, went right to 14, which I thought it would at the start. is, I mean, Texas number 92 in the country in red zone. They can move the football. They have had
Mhm.
troubles. Look at the Texas A&M game. That game should have been like 31 nothing. They did not put that game away.
Yeah.
Could not, score when they're down there in the red zone. Had some issues against Georgia, two missed field goals. So they're not completely buttoned up, but boy, I can't paint a picture here where Clemson has much success offensively.
Yeah.
Clemson's defense, in my opinion, is overrated. I think if I'm Texas, I'm running some tempo. SMU started, running with some urgency late in
Mm.
that game. I mean, if that game goes to overtime, Clemson gets beat. I mean,
Yeah.
their defense was suck and wind across the board. So I do think Arch Manning needs to have a package here because if
Yes.
you look at Clemson's defense and their struggles this year, they have struggled against mobile quarterbacks. So if I'm Texas, I at least, Arch needs to get 5 to 10 snaps running around.
Mm. Interesting. We could wrap up with I guess the game that everybody's nervous about, Tennessee, Ohio State. You will be there, by the way. How are your seats? Are you getting a suite? What do you got?
No sweets. I'm gonna be with the regular Joes. So
Sitting with the unwashed masses in the
yeah,
third
it'll
deck,
be
huh?
fun. I'll be
To
bundled up. You won't recognize me. So
20 degrees. Um, is part of the reason people are nervous for Ohio State is the last time they saw them, they totally shit the bed against Michigan.
yeah, how could you not be? I mean, that was no exaggeration. I know we live in a hot take society, but that was the worst loss probably in the history of the series between Michigan and Ohio
Wow.
State, considering what was at stake. They're favored by 20. They're coming off three straight losses. And the game plan, the offensive game plan, run it right into the Michigan strength of their defense. The interior defensive line made no sense whatsoever. I expect Ohio State to, you would hope, try to get the ball to their playmakers, Jeremiah Smith, Egbuka on the outside. I don't know if they fully trust their quarterback.
Yeah.
Two bad picks against Michigan. I know they don't trust their offensive line because they're still shuffling it this
Hmm.
week. You might see multiple different guards and lineups even in the game. So that's probably why they're not dropping back and throwing it 40 times. They just, Tennessee could tee off, and Tennessee strength is their defensive line on defense. So there is some concerns there. I'm not why I know a lot of people like Tennessee plus that 7.5. They
No.
feel like a public dog.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I don't like Tennessee's offense, what I've seen. I mean, non-conference when they're scoring 62 points per game against Chattanooga and UTEP, fine. But in SEC play, they're only averaging 25 points per game. Their offensive line's no good. The most trustworthy unit's probably Ohio State's defense. So it's another game I'm waiting. Looks like the dog's taking money. I'd prefer to lay it if I play it.
Yeah. Who's got the better quarterback in this game?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's not easy.
No, Nico did not live up to expectation. He's certainly more talented, but I mean, they're keeping him under wraps. So it's a push. I'll cop out
So,
and say it's a
and
push.
I bring that up because the portal is so fascinating to me, and these quarterbacks. You're way more plugged in on this, but there was a lot of rumors that Ohio State was in on Cam Ward. They were in the bidding process, and I guess they fell out. There's a variety of reasons floating around. Whether too many demands, too much money, blah blah blah. They settle on this kid Howard, who is not Dylan Gabriel. He is not Cam Ward. And if Ohio State comes up short, and I got futures on him, it's because they picked the wrong quarterback. Is that safe to say?
Very safe to say. I mean, can you imagine throw Cam Ward on this team?
Oh, come on.
We're looking for a dominant team in college football. We don't have it this year.
No.
Cam Ward on this team would have made Ohio State the
Oh,
dominant team in college
yeah.
football. So
What if they
yeah,
had Riley Leonard? If he'd not picked Notre Dame and he had gone,
they'd be number one. Riley Leonard obviously struggled early. He was coming off the injury, but once
yeah.
he settled in, I mean, look at him running the ball. He's a much better runner than Will Howard. And since the Northern Illinois game, Riley Leonard's thrown 3 picks in 10 games, free, and
Hmm.
he's completing 68%. Plus, he's one of the best running quarterbacks in the country. So yeah, they'd be even better with Riley Leonard.
Yeah, it is. You watch the end game against Oregon, and he screwed that up royally. And then against Michigan, he was just rotten. Now, I don't know. Was he concussed on that one hit in the first quarter?
Boy, it looked like it.
Yeah.
And he
I
didn't
think, did he come
necessarily
out for
play
a
that
play
well
or no?
after that.
I thought he came out for a play, maybe, or no?
He
Or
did. Yeah. He
okay.
got hit hard, but lost his helmet and everything, came out of play, went back in. I guess you say they checked him, but
Yeah,
you don't know.
a little lax there. So this is dumb Jason doing a dumb bet, but my biggest bet of the weekend is a 3-team teaser, and I can scoff Brad, laugh
Oh
at me,
my, a
please.
three-teamer in college? Oh man,
I got
okay.
Ohio State teased down. I got Penn State teased down, and Notre Dame teased down. 7.3 team teaser, and who screws that up? Which one
Yeah,
loses outright or doesn't win by a
here's
field
the
goal?
thing. I would lean all favorites. So,
Yeah.
what's the payout on a three-team seven
It's
pointer in college?
decent. I'm not betting, $3,000 bets like you are, and it's a teaser, so I couldn't go, totally hog wild. But I'm also with you. Texas separate covering is one. I just can't make any sense of that Penn State game straight up. But you also want to keep your powder dry for the following weekend, where I think we would probably agree Boise and Arizona State could be in some trouble.
Yeah, and see, when people ask me about pathway, not that I'm in love with Texas or Penn State, but you look at their path in the quarterfinal, they're going to be double-digit favorites in those games. The other two games are going to be basically toss-up pickups, whether it's Notre Dame, Georgia, or it's Ohio State, probably Oregon. I mean, that's a massive difference as far as advancing, get to the semifinals, the wear and tear comparison between the two.
Mm.
Where I mean, I would expect Texas to blow out Arizona State. So I mean, I don't even know if you need Ewers in there for the full game. So. Uh, Massive difference. I'll give you one a look ahead. I think people are surprised Notre Dame's favored over Georgia in the look aheads.
No,
Yeah,
by how much?
1.5, two. But I think the public is gonna get a hold of that. They're not gonna comprehend that Georgia's an underdog to Notre Dame.
So those, I'm sorry for not knowing. Those are neutral site games, right?
Neutral site games would be at the Sugar Bowl.
Notre Dame. I don't know. That's probably a bridge too far for me, man. I know you like the Irish. Come on, favorite over Georgia.
I bet Georgia. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
I think Georgia with a chip on their shoulder.
and
Uh,
extra time to prepare and not
yes.
having to have just played.
And
Uh,
Carson Beck's out for him. So I mean it's a downgrade to Gunnar Stockton, but having
Oh
3 weeks
shoot, I
to
forgot about that. What's the status on Beck? Is he done for the year?
I think he's down for the year. They're saying UCL injury, similar to what Brock Purdy got a couple years
Mm,
ago.
that's not
And
good.
if you look at the hit that he got, it kind of,
Oh,
yeah,
that
it
was
looks like he's
devastating.
out, done for the
So
year.
I only recall the backup. Is he a 5-star guy or anything like that?
He's a 4-star kid, more of a runner. Uh, not as good of a thrower, though Carson Beck struggled at times this year. So
Oh my
uh,
gosh.
there'll be more power run game.
Hmm. Who would Arizona State play? They play Texas, and then so Boise would play Penn State.
Yep. Boise would
Um,
be the one, if you're looking for a major upset, that'd probably be the one more likely, but neither one, in my
well, I
opinion.
gotta ask, Brad. You watch a lot of Penn State this year. Every time I watch them, I see flashes of good, but lack of consistency, inconsistent play calling, boring play calling. Other than the kid Warren, who I think has to be a top 15 pick in the draft, and Carter's really good. I don't know that there's a lot to love about Penn State. Is there?
Agree. What you love about Penn State is the draw they got in this playoff. Because if they'd have gotten, matched up with someone or a little tougher draw, I'd have been very anti-Penn State.
Hmm. Let me quickly ask you on the Heisman. I know you had laid like 17 different Heisman bets or whatever it was.
0 and
Travis Hunter,
17.
how many was it?
Didn't get one. Yeah, didn't get one this year.
Hunter won it, and I get it. He's super talented. There's no way on earth nobody can convince me he was the best football player in the country this year. Do you think that's the case?
He wasn't even the best player on his team. If you're going to vote somebody from
Oh,
Colorado, it's Shedeur Sanders. He's way more valuable to the team. Take Travis Hunter off that team, maybe they lose one more game. Take Shedeur off that team, and it's not even a 500 team in my
yeah.
opinion. So, look, he played as many snaps as anybody in history. Played it at a pretty good level at both. I think the bigger joke to me was him winning like the Biletnikoff as the top wide receiver in the country than the Heisman. I knew it was I knew it was over. They lost to Kansas, got crushed in the game, gave up like 400 yards rushing. And what the media decided to do, I couldn't believe it was Saturday night. You know how they show clips of the game? They show
Yeah.
Travis Hunter highlights because he scored 2 touchdowns. I'm like, they got killed. They were favored. That's a pretty big loss. They're not going to the Big 12 championship game. And the media narrative is Hunter scored a couple touchdowns. That's when I knew the Heisman was over.
Now that's interesting. I didn't notice that. Yeah, I listen. I like Hunter. I don't know about Heisman, or I don't even know if he's a top 3 pick. For a corner. But by the way, would you let him play corner and receiver at the next level?
No, hell no. I
Yeah,
think
all these people
he's
are
just
like,
not physical enough for me on defense. I'd probably put him at wide out, but I mean, he's a little raw. He's raw in both, to be honest with you.
yeah. Can you imagine playing an NFL game against, say, the Ravens? So you got to go out, tackle Derrick Henry in space, chase around Zay Flowers, maybe Mark Andrews. You got to tackle him over the middle, and then oh, by the way, hey, go run a bunch of routes and catch passes and take hits from Kyle Hamilton and these guys. Like I don't understand why people think this is a thing that could actually happen.
It can, and I think obviously greatly benefited from a Big 12 conference that wasn't no good, and Colorado. You thought preseason, oh, they got a tough schedule. They're playing Utah and Oklahoma State and a lot of the Big 12 favorites. The reality was those teams stunk, and they avoided like the Arizona States and the
Yeah.
BYU's of the world in conference. So he didn't face that great competition this year. You can't play 100 plus snaps in the NFL. It's totally different.
All right,
It's
two quick
just
ones. Where are you on futures? Is there any value in anyone playing this weekend to win the Natty? And I know that like the extra time off matters, but how many times have we seen in the NFL where a wild card team gets hot and a team that's had a long layoff suddenly falls behind? Is there someone playing this weekend you think that has value to win it all?
well, I'm going to call for Texas to win it all. I mean, but
Interesting.
they're one of the favorites. I like their path, and I mean, change of play in the Georgia game, and they'd be the overwhelming favorite, in my opinion, if they had won that Georgia game. I like the path for Penn State. I mean, they're big
Yeah.
favorite this week, be a big favorite next week, and then face the Notre Dame Georgia winner. The winner of that game is going to be beat up, probably be a pick'em game. Whether it's Georgia without Carson Beck or Notre Dame off a very physical game against Georgia. So I like Penn State's path. Those are the two teams I like the path the most. And Notre Dame plays up to their ability. I mean, there's a reason why they'll probably be favored over Georgia.
Mm. I just have a tough time seeing Penn State actually get to the Natty because they're not good. They're not good, Brad. You know that.
I know they're not, but I mean,
The
the
path is
path. I mean, if
insane.
they're playing Oregon in the quarterfinal, I'd say no chance. They're
Um,
playing Tennessee this week, I would say. Well, they're in trouble.
they're in trouble, yeah. So if Ryan Day loses on Saturday somehow to Tennessee, is he fired by Sunday?
That's a good question. I don't think so. And believe it or not, I'm not
Hmm.
sure that they have the money because it's just not Ryan Day. It's the assistants that they paid. I mean, Chip
Oh,
Kelly's, making multiple millions. That you got to buy them out. That's 50 plus million from reading the contracts. Then you got to bring
mm,
somebody in. What's that going to take? 50 plus million for that contract. Plus, then you're going to have to build a roster out because a lot of kids will hit the portal. So do they have 100 plus million? No, they're not Texas A&M in my opinion.
yeah.
So I don't think they'll do it.
We'll,
Where
we'll
I could
close.
see is Ryan Day take another job, but I don't think
Oh,
there's
in
not
the
a
NFL or college?
yeah, I could see either, but I just don't know if there's a soft landing spot. If there was like a job maybe similar to North Carolina, but maybe a little bit better,
Oh,
I
definitely.
could see him going that route, but there's just not a job open right now.
I wanted to ask you, sorry, about the Belichick move. Obviously, a lot of people were surprised. I don't know, Brad. Again, you're all over the sport. This to me looks like a massive home run. I know they keep the 4-star guy, and I know, listen, everybody's going to hammer Belichick for the last couple years in New England. This is a new dude, man. He's got like a 25-year-old girlfriend. He's actually
Yeah.
smiling at press conferences. He looks happier. I was talking to Julian Edelman today on the set, and he saw Belichick at that Brady was it at the Brady roast. He was there, and he's like, Bill's happy now. And like, I don't know that you could say that 5 years ago when he was
Yeah.
in New England. But I don't know. I'm extremely bullish on this, and maybe you'll pour cold water on it.
I mean, everyone in my industry is very pessimistic about it.
Huh.
I need to see how he fills out his coaching staff, see how the roster goes, transfer portal. Win total 7.5 already. You could bet it. I'd probably lean under. So I think first year might not be great. But
Did you see this? The opponents. I know the schedule. I don't think is lined up, but the opponents. There's like nobody tough. Their toughest road game, I think, is at Cal.
they did lose to James Matt. They gave up 70 points to James Madison this year. So
Yeah,
everyone's chalking up, oh, that's an automatic W. That's a W. That's a W. This is North Carolina. It's not Ohio State.
I forgot that they gave up 70 to my Dukes. But listen, Sam Howell was a pro. He's in the league for now, and Drake May looks good. So North Carolina's had some dudes come through there. I don't think Mac Brown's leaving the cupboard empty. Do you? I don't
No,
follow
he's
North
had some
Carolina
decent
recruiting.
recruiting classes, although it's tailed off the last couple of years. So, I mean, again, they win with those two quarterbacks, Sam Howell and Drake May, for
Yeah.
a 6 year period. They're still like an 8-4 program. So that's
Mm.
why, if anything, that's why I'm pouring cold water because I've seen them with talent and I haven't seen them get over the top. So,
Yeah, I guess just watching SMU and Clemson from the ACC make the playoff, knowing FSU is down. We just Boston College good. I don't know that there's other good teams in the ACC, and I wonder if there is a slight opening for Belichick to kind of do some damage
yeah,
next year.
I got to see. Let's see the roster and the rest of the coaching staff.
Oh, by the way, you said the industry's pessimistic. Is that the gambling or college football
The
at large?
the college football gambling. Very pessimistic. The guys that I run around with, market influencers, are very pessimistic that it'll
And
blow up in his face.
historically, how has the groupthink been when that crowd gets on one side?
Yeah, that's groupthink is usually pessimistic. You get a crowd together. We got Coach Prime wrong. Was right last year, wrong this year, big
Right,
time.
right.
And with Herm Edwards, if you remember that, we threw water on
ASU.
that, but that was okay at the start and then got bad later. So it hasn't been overwhelming,
Hmm.
smashing success. I'll put it that way.
All right. Well, Brad Powers, thanks a lot for taking the time. Happy holidays. Enjoy the games. I mean, Notre Dame and Ohio State, that's big time stuff, man. Yeah, save some of the winnings for the NFL playoffs, man.
Yeah. Well, what I will be saving is some extra hot chocolate. Try to stay warm. Thanks for having me.
All right, man.